Hello everybody, welcome to this fourth lecture in my series on counselling and interpersonal skills, in which we're going to talk about paraphrasing and reflecting feelings. Let me first begin then with what I mean by the phrase paraphrasing. When we use paraphrasing in our work helping clients, what we are in effect doing is holding up a mirror so that the client can look at themselves. Not necessarily how they look, but so that they can examine their thoughts and feelings, their beliefs and values, their ideas, their self-concept, their view about the future, their view about the past, their sense of themselves, their behaviour, and by reflecting on those things, new understandings come to light, and the client is able to learn from that and hopefully change. So that then is the overall aim of counselling, to hold up that mirror so that the client can see themselves. And one of the tools that we have at our disposal is the tool of paraphrasing. Paraphrasing enables us to build rapport. It enables us to demonstrate that we are listening. It enables the counsellor to check out their understanding, and it encourages the client to say more. So it is therefore a very important skill. In a nutshell, paraphrasing means taking what the client has said and repeating it back to them, not necessarily using exactly the same words, but repeating it back to them so that the content of what is said and the meaning of what it says remains. So the client is then invited to reflect upon the meaning and content of what they're saying. Once they reflect upon that, they can then decide, is that what I really mean? Does that match how I really think and feel about this particular thing? Let me give you an example. I'm going to use David Mearns and Brian Thorne's book on person-centered counselling by Sage, published 2007, 3rd edition. On page 11, this discussion, this interaction takes place. Client: I don't remember my parents ever praising me for anything. They always had something critical to say. My mother was always on about my untidiness, my lack of thought about everything. My father was always calling me stupid. When I got 6 A passes in my GCSEs, he said it was typical that I'd done well in the wrong subjects. Counsellor: It seems you could never do anything right in their eyes, no matter how hard you tried or how successful you were. Client: My friends were just as bad. They kept on at me about my appearance and told me that I was a pimply swat. I just wanted to creep around without being seen by anyone. Counsellor: You felt so awful about yourself that you would like to have been invisible. It's not all in the past, it's just the same now. My husband never approves of anything I do, and now my daughter says she's ashamed to bring her friends home in case I upset them. It seems I'm no use to anyone. It would be better if I just disappeared. So there you have a couple of examples of the counsellor paraphrasing what the client said. Not necessarily using the same words as the client, but capturing the content and the meaning of what's being expressed and feeding that back to the client so that the client can hear it for themselves. And that's what I mean by holding up a mirror for the client, so that they can check out the validity of their experience. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is the reflection of feelings. Now, I'm sure that when you heard me read that, some feelings came up for you. Feelings of upset, sadness, that someone could be treated so harshly. Now, there are lots of sources of information when it comes to feelings. We can focus on what the client says, because often they'll say how they're feeling when they're talking. They'll say that they feel sad or angry or upset. But also we can focus on their non-verbal communication, the pallor of their skin, the swelling of the lips, how they look, the quickness of their breath, their heart rate racing. These are all things that give us clues about how the client might be feeling. But also we can get a sense of how someone else is feeling by attending to how we're feeling as well. If you successfully put to one side your ego, then it may be that how you're feeling when the client talks is similar to how the client feels. This is one of the magical things about counselling, that as we become more experts at counselling, we have to be able to distinguish between what our feelings are and what the client's feelings are about particular things. So once we've recognised that there's a feeling, we can then feed that back to the client. I noticed that when you spoke about how it felt to be so harshly treated by your parents, I noticed that you look quite angry, and I'm just wondering if that's how it feels. When you spoke about your parents, then I got kind of an angry feeling inside, and I'm just wondering if that's how it feels for you too. So focusing on how the client's feeling and sharing that with the client can help the client to acknowledge and explore feelings that have often laid dormant beyond the reach of the conscious mind, where they often fester and show themselves in unwanted behaviours. It's much better to know that the feelings are there and have some choice about what we do with them.